Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the Temple of the Exploding Head Omnibus, Part 2, Chapter 8, The End of Winter. Last week, Kay got tired of his shitty gifts. He got can't-see, disappointed his mom and dad because thousands of years of Blanchford tradition has apparently been lost since he can't see shit. And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. And he's feeling that. He's feeling that weight upon him. And Sam is away. She's missing. She's been disappearing for long stretches of time lately and doesn't tell him why. And so he's like, I screw this. He goes to the Blanchford Creek and to a spot where he knows Lieutenant Kylos keeps a flask of heavy spirits, or she keeps in the creek because it keeps it nice and cold, and it's just there available for her use when she needs it. And he fishes it out and he takes it to Cathomir's Cathedral, a place where unwanted eyes and ears cannot see you. And he's like, I'm gonna get good and drunk. And he tosses back and it's way too strong for him and he spits most of it up, but what he did manage to get down was enough to get him drunk. And as he's sitting there in a drunken stupor, a voice comes to him and tells him all kinds of crazy things that he won't remember now but will remember later. And he shows Kay the abduction of his sister by these creepy skinless monsters that's going to happen in the future. And then he starts telling him about the Horned God, his dark angels, and how the Monomas thousands upon thousands of years ago were his dark angels. And the Horned God would lure in unsuspecting aliens, essentially, to Cana, where the Monomas, with 4 arms and incredibly vicious, could basically exterminate them and drag them into the Temple of the Exploding Head deep in the ground and basically kill them for the Horned God's pleasure. And that was a cycle that had gone on and on and on for ages. But eventually, the Monomas, and the voice wasn't really, it was a little fuzzy on those details, but eventually the Monomas, over time, lost their second pair of arms and their brutality. They became much more civilized, much less tame and tepid, kind of like they are in the modern sense. And they fled from the Horned God. They left the Temple of the Exploding Head and never to return. And the Horned God was pissed. Wasn't happy that his dark angels that had given him so much joy and entertainment for ages are left him there just to rage alone in the temple. But eventually a new set of dark angels show up. These golden people, these formless, shapeless shape-shifters appeared in the temple and presented themselves to the Horned God. And their motives and their logic is very alien. You know, it's a sci-fi series, and there are aliens that pop up, not very often, but occasionally. But when they do, they are just that. Alien. Their logic is unknowable. Their motives undeciphered. So these golden people show up, really don't know what they want, what their end game is, but they're happy to, or they seem happy to serve the Horned God in the similar capacity that the Monomas once did. And the golden people really don't get their hands dirty themselves. They appear to be mariners in time, and they can jump backwards and forwards in time. One of their favorite things to do is abduct people in the future, turn them into hideous evil monsters, and then those monsters basically do all the dirty work. They're called Kalanju. And those are the demons that torment the Monomas, because the Kalanju love to mess around with the Monomas and make them do things they don't want to do and ruin their lives and take them away and so forth. And so Kay sees a pair of Kalanju taking his sister, Lady Kylos. and this gateway opens, and in they go, and it closes, and it's horrific. And then the voice says, these golden people are going to try to attack the Vith. They're coming at the League, and they're going to try to rip the League's heart out, which tends to be the Vith, the fighting heart of the League. And the voice tells them, eventually you're going to have to go to Rhoda Tower at Durst Castle. And recall, if you know from the previous readings, the Dursts were allies of the Blanchfords, but they had, in the latest incarnation, 7 daughters with no sons, and that's how lineage and inheritances work in the League. The League tends to be very female-oriented and run. The sisters are female, and they tend to run the League. But the things like hierarchy and households appears to be more male-dominated. And if you don't have any males, you lose all your stuff. So Castle Durst has become a ruin, eventually, with all this Durst daughters moving on and marrying and living in other places. So Castle Durst is just a ruin. But these creepy monsters are setting up some sort of weapon at the top of Castle Durst in Rhoda Tower, which is the largest tower in Castle Durst, and they're going to use it to try to strike at the Vith. And then Kay, the voice tells him, is going to have to go and take it out, because the voice can't do it himself. Kay has to do it, or somebody similar to Kay, a hero in the making. But then he puts Kay in his bed, tells him, you're not going to remember any of this until the time is right. And then Sam shows up and smells all the nasty spirits on his breath and gets a towel and cleans them up. And then that's where it ends this week. And I have to say, this is a humongous book. This is a 1,000-page book. And these early chapters in book 1 are more for maintenance and getting you geared up for the main part of the story. And these chapters here in part 2, going up from chapter 6 or 7 to all the way to chapter 12, is just not much happening, and I'm sorry, but they got to be in here. You need these interactions, you need this info. But as far as action and adventure, it's not really happening in this part of the book. It will. Book 2 is pretty much all adventure and action, and so is part 3. It's just, we got to get through these doldrums and move on. And that's the author talking. Maybe I could have done something about these chapters, but they really need to be there just for your knowledge as the story goes along. So let's knock out chapter 8. It's not very long. Temple of the Exploding Head Omnibus, Book 1, The Dead Held Hands, Part 2, Chapter 8, The End of Winter.
We used to be evil once, and the gods are still punishing us.
The next morning, as Kay and Sam ate breakfast in the Capricos Hall, they had a blowout fight. But not over death trials and other secrets or even lunches with Lon. No. It was over Sarah and Philip. Kay, I am no longer content to lose you to your cousins in the summertime anymore. I'm sorry, but our relationship has matured to the point that your future wife outstrips your friends. And yes, I'm assuming that I am going to be your future wife. Therefore, it's me first, them second, she said, rather rank as she ate her food. He had a racking headache from the booze and was still reeling from a night full of odd dreams. Well, Sam, it's you who insists that we maintain our secret relationship, though I am willing to present ourselves to the League and have told you so many times. Yes, and you now know why I keep us a secret. And as Sarah and Philip live in this castle in the summertime, I don't see how we are to conduct ourselves without them becoming wise to our activities. Well, avoid them. I can't avoid them. This is a big castle, but they'll seek me out. The three of us are normally inseparable in the summer. If I suddenly start avoiding them, they'd instantly know something was up. Kay glared at her. And where have you been? Where do you keep going? I've been busy. I've had to attend to some business, and I returned as soon as I could. I didn't want to be away, but I had to. Sam stewed, clearly upset. So, I cannot have you in the summer? At least we have the evenings. No, Sam, we won't have the evenings either. You know that. Sarah and Philip are known to barge in on me at all hours. Imagine the scene if you were there, naked, and they come in. Sam slammed her fork down. Lord Blanchford, it appears you are in quite a situation. I am to the point where you need to make a choice right here and now between them and me, and I will advise you that choosing them over me would be a bad and possibly painful mistake for you. She seized a large walnut from a nearby basket and shattered it in her pale fist. Kay was unimpressed. Really? I hear that you have been enjoying lunches in Arden with Lord Lon. What's that all about? How did you find out about that? Never mind. The point is that I know. Where have you been, and what were you discussing with Lon, if I might ask? As I have said, I've been busy, and regarding my lunch with Lord Lon, you may not ask. Kay, we were discussing a private matter, nothing that would interest you. Kay was incensed. Is that a fact, Sam? I want to know what you were talking about with Lon, and I want to know where you've been now. Or what? She said, rolling up her sleeves. Or start eating this table, plates and all. Before another moment had passed, Kay and Sam were locked in a full-fledged fight/wrestling match. They were all over the place, throwing each other around, rocking the huge table in the hall. They hit the floor and started rolling around. Soon, Kay had Sam by the head and she had him by the waist, her legs squeezing the daylights out of him, her crossed shoes sticking up in the air. As they struggled for position, Lord Davidge and Countess Sigillis came into the hall with Lady Kylos walking behind. They'd come for breakfast. Kai looked at them on the floor and shook her head. A few hours later, they were up in Kay's reading room. Kay had a scratched face and a few bruised ribs. Sam was doing all right. She treated his scratch with a damp cloth. I'm sorry about this morning, Sam, he said. It's all right, Kay. If you can't get into the occasional brawl with the person you love, who can you? She put the cloth down and settled into his arms. I'm sorry I've been so strange and moody lately, Kay, and I'm sorry I was absent over the last few days. There are things that I can't tell you. I want to. I'm dying to, but I can't. Just know that everything I do for you, for us. You mean everything to me, Aaron Tan, and most of all, I'm sorry about this morning. Not about our little tussle, which I thought was kind of fun, but about almost making you choose between me and your cousins. That was very selfish and unfair of me. Kay kissed her. Sam, I think it's time we told Sarah and Philip about us. They're trustworthy. They won't give up our secret. Well, they won't accept me. Sarah hates me, and after the ball, I don't think I like her much either. She'll just have to see reason. Philip will be fine. For Sarah, just remember, she values strength. If she gets in your face, don't back down, no matter what. The sun set on winter. Tomorrow, Sarah and Philip would return with their mother and father for yet another summer. That evening, Sam, true to her word, returned all the books she had borrowed, and there were a bunch of them. They went to Lord Davidge's study and put back 50 or so books she'd borrowed. They went to the garden library in the West Quarter and put back 3 books. In the big reading room in Countess Pardoc's old tower, they put back 10 books. Finally, they went to the hidden 8-sided library. They put back several books she had taken out. "Did these books help you in whatever you were looking for?" Kay asked. "Why, I hope so," she said vacantly, as she fiddled with the huge blue book that didn't seem to fit properly on the shelf. She had to adjust several books and lay one on top of the others to make room. Odd. Kay didn't recall any trouble fitting the books in before. A large blue book? "Hey," Kay said, have I told you how much I love you lately?" She didn't answer. "Sam?" She lay there unmoving, almost like she was dead. The thing she had feared for years was nigh at hand. The thunderstorm she had foreseen and tried to ignore was ready to darken the skies at long last. She couldn't hold it back. It was here. The demons were coming, and she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready. All the knowledge she had gathered, all her preparations, too late. Her Aaron Dan, dying. The sadness that flowed through her was too much. It was just too much. She saw her death, four-armed, enraged, the demons watching and laughing, victorious as always, her clawed hands at Kay's throat. She wasn't ready. She felt her mind detaching from her body, drifting away to quiet places. All the fear she'd felt, all the dread, began to fall to the wayside, replaced with a pall of sweet indifference. In this lukewarm state, nothing mattered. Headswarm. She was falling into headswarm to protect herself from the unbearable torrent to come. She casually noted that this was a big headswarm. Once in it, she probably couldn't be pulled out. Ever. She would wither away over time and die, lost and content. As she drifted away, she heard a voice in the distance. She heard singing. It was a song she'd never heard, sung with love and care. It was a song that tempted her, prompted her to stay, to come down from the inviting paradise of Headswarm and return to the fear and troubles of the real world and listen. Who was singing? Where did it come from? She fell back into her body and listened. It was Kay. In the hidden library, he was holding her limp body and was singing an elder tune. He sang it softly into her ear. She felt his arms around her and listened to the song. She fell into a contented state, a much more blissful one than even the fields of Headswarm could offer. Kay's touch and his loving voice kept her from Headswarm, gave her the strength to fight it off, and the courage to remain in the real world with a clear head, though the real world was soon to offer little but pain and sorrow. How few Monomas have chosen pain over forgetfulness. She couldn't have made that choice on her own. Kay helped her make it. She'd forgotten how strong Kay would one day be. Up until this point, it had been Sam who was the strong one, and Kay, blissfully unaware, the weak one. She and Kay were about to enter a new phase of their lives, where she would be the one in need, and he would have to be strong, where he would have to face the demons that were about to fall upon him all alone. Was he up to what was coming? She had to have faith that he was. "Go away, Erntan," she finally said, her eyes opening. "I won't, Saratila. I want you here with me." He held her for the rest of the night and sang in her ear. Despite the storm that was about to rage, it was the most contented and safe she had ever felt. Hello, Ren here. Sorry to interrupt the narration, but as I was editing this, I noticed the back half of the sound recording I'd made previously is badly clipped. There are long stretches of narration that just aren't present. I'm not sure why. It's just the recording just didn't work like it's supposed to, and I really can't recover it, so I'm just going to have to reread the last page and a half or so of this chapter. It's not very long, but this is a different program with different editing tools. So, and I'm kind of getting a cold. My voice feels like it's hoarse, so it's going to sound a little different. But let's proceed immediately. Let's get this done, and I'll talk to you at the end. The following afternoon was the usual cool, deep blue affair common in Blanchford. Lord Davidge and Kay were completing his afternoon card practice in the Holt courtyard of the Thomas Grove. The larger-than-life statue of Mother that Kay had made for her birthday stood in a pebbled nook overlooking the courtyard. Kay had sheathed it in copper, and the statue had developed a nice greenish patina over the years. The statue bore a water jug on her shoulder, for the coming of Sigillus of Metatron to the house of Blanchford breathed new life into the old household, which Kay symbolized with the water jug. Mother loved the statue, showed it to all her friends, and spent a lot of time in the courtyard admiring it. "My son made this for me," she'd proudly say. She even used the jug as part of her design logo. A close-knit family, everybody was nearby, doing their own thing in the statue's shadow. Countess Sigillus and Lady Kylos were sitting on the low stone wall, arguing as usual. This time, their fight was centered on the cut of a new gown his mother was designing. A fabric dummy floated in front of Mother, draped with a new gown she was working on. Lady Hathaline sat nearby, quiet as usual. Lord Davidge had promised to go flying with her as soon as he was finished with Kay's lesson. Mazer was playing on a little mound of dirt under a huge tree with Lieutenant Kylos. A member of the house staff arrived in the courtyard and approached Countess Sigillus. She halted her argument with Lady Kylos and turned to her. I am here, my countess, as you requested," the staff member said. Sig held up a novelty shirt with a terrible hollow picture of herself on the front, similar to the one Kay had bought for Kai in the village. "You are to prowl every shop in the village, and if you discover any more of these shirts, you are to confiscate them at once on my orders. Am I clear?" Yes, my countess. And if I happen to see anybody wearing the offending shirts?" "You are to reimburse the person and seize the shirt off of his or her protesting back if need be. If anyone gives you misery, you are to advise them to see me personally. Off you go." The staff member ran off. Kai had a devilish grin on her face, as she had stockpiled quite a few of the shirts to use for any number of nefarious purposes. No doubt they would come in handy. Sigillus turned to Davidge. "Dav, I am at my wit's end with that woman." "To whom are you referring?" Davidge asked, as if he didn't know. "Her, the Duchess of Olin. I am ready to challenge her to a fight to the death in the arena with the whole league watching. Winner take all, the loser dies." Davidge laughed. "Isn't Duchess Olin ready to deliver another child?" "I don't care. I'll fight the both of them." "Sig, you promised you'd quit fighting with Tori," Davidge said. Sig wadded up the shirt and threw it at Davidge. "I'm not the one who keeps launching attacks of humiliation." Davidge was having a hard time keeping from laughing. "Well, Sig, after you bare-assed the Duchess at the Hubert Ball, you had to expect some sort of revenge coming your way, yes? Instead of wanting to get the poor and, might I say, rather pregnant Duchess in the arena, why don't you just try using your wits? Get even. If she's circulating shirts with an ugly picture of you on the breast, then why don't you circulate a shirt with an even uglier picture of her on it? Fair's fair, I suppose. Mother, I think I can get hold of some naked and grotesquely pregnant pictures of the Duchess, if you want them, Kai said. Sigillis appeared inspired, and then shook her head and turned to Kai, resuming their previous argument. Lady Kylos, Sigillis spoke in a firm, impatient voice, I am not creating clothing for a courtesan. The neckline shall plunge no further, and that is final. She adjusted and pinned the fabric. Mother, Kai replied tartly, the fashions coming out of Armenelos are much more courageous regarding the display and wear of cleavage this year, and I insist our Blanchford fashions meet the challenge. I am trying to do you a favor. Kai, frustrated, turned to Davidge. Father, will you please talk some sense into Mother? Davidge put his card down and took them both by the chin. Oh, you two clucking hens, always pecking away at each other. Sig turned the dummy to face Davidge. Well, what do you think, love? Do you like it? Davidge looked at the gown. Well, I love it, darling. Very nice shape. Nice colors. Father, the neckline is unacceptable, Kai stated firmly. You shall not catch me wearing that gown. Sig turned to her. You'll not be wearing such a thing until you are 30 years old. Am I understood? Why not? Kay is allowed to get into a twisting, rolling fight on the floor with his girlfriend, so why can't I wear an interesting gown? You shall be involved in a fight here in a moment, sure enough, young lady. Davidge looked at it again. Well, Sig, perhaps you could be a bit more daring, perhaps a tad lower. Kay, watching, smiled and put his coat back on and saddled his carg, the lesson over. So, Dav, how's our son coming along here in his training? Sig asked, tossing Kay's hair and giving him a kiss on the cheek. He's got a fine sword arm, and he uses that carg like he's done it all his life. Though, you shouldn't hold it one-handed like a rapier. It's a carg, Kay. Use both hands. I keep telling you that. And you keep ignoring my advice. Kay leveled it, holding it like a fencer. But father, like this I can easily cross any incoming attack, while leaving my open hand free to brandish a pistol, perhaps. A pistol? Davidge smiled, and in a blazingly fast move crossed Kay's carg with his own. Kay's silver carg flew out of his hand and spiraled off into the trees, landing at the feet of the statue. Ah, you see? Now you have both hands free, Kay. Just imagine if I were an enemy. You need both hands on your weapon at all times. Kay turned to his brother Mazer. Mazer, can you go get my carg, Chief? Mazer said something inaudible and scurried off into the trees, returning a moment later, holding Kay's carg. Overhead, a familiar black ship streaked across the sky, heading towards the farther reaches of the grove. Davidge watched it pass. Ah, looks like your aunt, uncle, and cousins have arrived. He checked his timepiece. Right on time, too. Father, Kay asked, may I be off? I'd like to greet them. He was excited. Davidge pushed his hat back and checked his timepiece again. Well, certainly. If you see your aunt and uncle, tell them we'll be along shortly. It's good to have them back. Kai, Kay asked, saddling his carg. Want to come with me? And get yelled at by Sarah? No thanks. Creation is going to be a long summer. Well, suit yourself. Kay gave his mother a kiss on the cheek and tore off into the trees. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 8, The End of Winter. So, a couple of things happen in this chapter. Relationship. A secret. Sam would basically just kind of vanish in the summer and not be around quite as much because Sarah and Philip, being Kay's best friends, kind of dominate his time, and they don't know that Kay is seeing Sam. But Sam's kind of fed up with that and kind of gives Kay an ultimatum, like, them or me. Getting tired of you disappearing all the time. And then Sam and Kay get into like a little scuffle, and that happens a fair amount. I mean, Sam's no little tender flower. Sam is a lot stronger and faster than Kay is, so he's lucky she doesn't really face, and she apologized for almost making Kay choose between her and his cousins. And then, as the end of winter approaches, Sam returns all the books that she had borrowed, and she had borrowed quite a few. And she even returns a weird blue book into the secret library and Kay can't remember that book at all. I wonder where that book came from. I'm not saying anything, but it came from somewhere. And then Sam kind of loses it a little bit. She knows that from her future tellings that they're at sort of a crossroads, and throughout their relationship it always been Sam who'd kind of been in control. Sam was the one with knowledge. Sam was the stronger one. Kay was the blissfully unaware one. His gifts are terrible, what have you. Step up and be a powerful Vith Lord, and she envisions Kay fighting for his life against demons, and he's going to do it alone. And that Sam sort of kind of loses it and drifts off into Headswarm. And if you remember what Headswarm is, it's sort of a catatonic condition monomas enter into, where they're at kind of a difficult part of their life, and just to sort of cope with it, they put their mind elsewhere and just sort of let whatever happens happen. And sometimes it's hard to get a monoma out of Headswarm once they're in one, but she hears Kay singing a Vith song and is intrigued, and she comes back, and Kay basically pulls her back out of Headswarm. A kind of a foreshadowing of the person Kay's gonna be coming up, where he hasn't been much of anything yet, but he has the potential for greatness, and Sam has seen it, and it hasn't really manifested yet, but it has to, or he's gonna die, essentially. And then the next day they're out in the grove, and Countess Sigillis in a sort of a side story called The Day of Silent Looms, where Lord Davidge gave Sig the authority to fire all the designers who had been ignoring her. And she mentioned that early in the story. Now, they better start listening to me or I'm going to get pissed. So she walks down there and basically fires every designer that crosses her path and takes over the business herself. And so from here on out, she is the head of the Blanchford business, the Blanchford line, and is a lead designer in her own right. And Kay and Captain Davidge are practicing with his Karg, and Kay's become quite a master Karg swordsman, but Davidge says he has a habit of not holding his Karg with both hands. He just sort of holds it with one hand. He says you really need to put both your hands on your Karg at all times, and he's like, yeah, but I can do this, this, and this. And then Davidge easily knocks it out of his grasp, says, yeah, now you got both hands free. And then a goshawk flies overhead, and that is the beginning or the return of his aunt and uncle, Lady Poe and Lord Peter, and Kay, and so a lot of, actually, I had mentioned these are the doldrums, but a lot of cool things happened in this chapter. I think we get a glimpse of the person that Kay will become. Maturation process is well underway. In any event, until next week, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.